Welcome again to another golf swing analysis. Today we have one of the most talked about swings on the PGA Tour, Jim Furyk. Now a lot of people don't understand what he's doing in his golf swing, and often his swing is referred to as being an ugly swing, which I would find to be quite a silly comment based on the performance of this player. Jim has managed to win 26 professional tournaments with this golf swing. I guess it helps that he's also regarded as one of the best putters in the game. He was the winner of the US Open in 2003, Player of the Year 2010, FedEx Cup Player winner 2010. So a career that seems destined one day to get him into the Hall of Fame. So let's go ahead and take a look at this swing. It's certainly a unique swing, one that's would not normally be taught by most modern day teachers, although back in the day there were more and more swings a little like this. Lee Trevino's swing a little similar. Jim's swing was taught to him by his father. He's also a golf professional, so this was not an accident, this was an intentional golf swing. And Jim's father also taught him to putt cross-handed in a left-hand low from a very young age, and he still maintains that till this day. So another thing that's a little unusual with Jim, we can't see from this video, is actually he plays with a double overlap, so the two fingers of his right hand overlap the top hand. So quite a few interesting facets to Jim Furyk's game, and he's made it work with a lot of hard work over the years. So we've got a couple of good video angles from this. Looks like a driver swing on the tee box. We'll draw in our standard reference points to start with. The head. It's also important when you're doing this type of thing for yourself that you get a nice stable camera, you get the angle positioned nicely. First thing you'll notice here with Jim, with the driver from the face-on view, he plays with quite a narrow stance. Jim Furyk is actually quite a tall man, he's about 6'2", but he has a relatively narrow stance. He has the unusual double overlapping grip on his right hand, but everything else is, from the face-on view, looks pretty standard. Has a nice little tilt of the body back here. You can see the shoulder tilt through here due to the spine being tilted. However, from the down the line view, it's very obvious that his arms hang very close to vertical. He stands very close to the top of his club, so the distance from his legs to his hands is very close. Almost appears like the butt of the handle is on his legs. So he stands very close to the ball, and this is something he does with all of his shots. I think for a tall player, he stands nearer to the ball than anybody I've ever seen. When we look at Jim's takeaway from the face-on view, you will notice moves the club away nicely with the arms, chest, shoulders, all this sort of one-piece move till he reaches his parallel to the ground position. Notice the head's moved a little bit off to the right. Looking at that same move from the other camera down the line, looks a little different. Club shaft and club head moves under plane. The club face is a little closed, more closed than some players will typically have it. So you'll see it parallel to the ground, the club's a little bit underneath, and his hands stay very, very close to his legs. A lot of players who stand close to the ball, amateur players, their arms and hands would tend to work out away from their body and trying to create some room. The second part of this backswing, you're getting up to left arm parallel to the ground. You'll notice that he hasn't got a tremendous amount of wrist hinge at this stage. Certainly hasn't got anywhere near the 90-degree angle that a lot of players would be in. Looking from the down the line view, you'll see it about this point here. His hands and club basically just work straight up in the air. Now this here is a very unusual position to see a top professional have the club stand up this vertically. Certainly not something you'd commonly see among good players, but it's what Jim does. So based on his results, we can't question what he's doing. So he gets to the top of his swing, still doesn't have a lot of hinge in the left wrist, starting to hinge in at about this point. Please note here that the left arm is slightly bent. This is very common. Very few players have that left arm perfectly straight, top of the backswing. Lovely leg work here, even with his narrow stance. His legs are nice and strong. Certainly hasn't over-rotated his hips nor his upper body. A nice width. Certainly his hands are very high at this point, but all in all, the body position was very standard. The arms, although we got up there in a little unusual way, from the face-on view at least, it looks relatively normal. From the down-the-line view, that's not at all the case. He's got certainly an extremely upright backswing. This left arm is getting close to 90 degrees to the ground. Very high right forearm and right elbow position. Very high hand position, well above his head. Now obviously if Jim was to swing back down the same way he swung up, well, he wouldn't win anything. He might be the world's worst golfer. So he's going to have to make a series of compensations and adjustments. And you'll note here, if I put a mark on the club head and on his hands, you'll notice as he starts to work into his transition, look where that club head's moving. The club head kind of loops down, comes down, lays down behind him. So there's a huge rerouting move there, and obviously he needs to do that to get the club back into a position that it can work from. Notice here the lower body driving forward, and the upper body turning after that's happened. You see the very high position now comes down to quite a narrow position at this stage here. You can see the tremendous amount of angle between the left lead arm and the shaft. Nothing like that going back. Now Jim is not known as a power player, certainly not one of the longest hitters on the tour. In fact, he's a shorter than average hitter, renowned for his accuracy and his consistency. People wonder how he can be so consistent with his golf swing, but it's very repeatable. Does it day in and day out. You know, I've never seen him make a swing that didn't look anything like this. He's a great player. So as he continues down, you can see a lot of knee drive. You see the knees getting very close together as he's approaching the ball. You see the significant amount of angle between the right trail arm and the shaft. Evidence that the right wrist is nicely bent back. You see this among every good player as they're approaching the ball. You see down the line view, the club shaft is really shallowed out into the downswing and comes actually a little bit underplane back into the golf ball, which is probably hard to believe for most of you given how upright he was in the backswing. But he reroutes that club down. You see the club comes a little bit underneath that right forearm. Also notice how very close to his right hip his arms are, and obviously his hips are open, so his right hip is even nearer to the ball than when it started. So he doesn't have a lot of clearance for his arms to get past his body. So he drives his knees forward a lot. The head is clearly behind the ball. Notice that Jim's right arm is more bent at impact than perhaps any good player. I think a lot of good players' arm is bent, but not as bent as this. You can see the right arm here is very bent as it approaches the ball, and then it's through impact. He's as good as anybody, gets the club on the ball beautifully. You see the right arm is still bent, and about here, well after impact, the right arm is straightened. You see the club pushing, exiting to the left, not following the golf ball. Right arm straightening through the ball. A lot of leg drive in Jim's swing. The knees get very close together, really wide after impact. Finishes in a beautiful balanced position. Nice and high follow through as you'd expect, given how high his backswing was. So there we have it, Jim Furyk, one of the best players of his generation, successful player. The golf swing that when he first came on the tour was kind of mocked and almost laughed at by some of the other players and their commentators, but he's proven them all wrong. Not a swing that you'd try to go out and copy or teach to a young player, but certainly a fantastic talent. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.